browser so that we can actually see what we have got here out. So here is my browser on the SQL Injection, and I have opened up my courses lesson 1, but I would be first of all going to lesson number 10. So this is my lesson number 10, and the very famous out there is the SQL Injection Master Course. Now what is going to happen, you might have seen this kinds of forms and everything out there in a lots and lots of websites. And what people does, let me open up a notepad so that I can share some things with you. So what happened is people are going to show you some things like, hey Hitesh, you can put something like this, 0 single quote or 0 quote equals quote 0. Now people say, hey Hitesh, these types of strings can hack into any website, and this is perfectly true, but the reason is we don't understand what's happening at the back end, we don't understand how to protect it, and majorly we don't understand how this works. So let's first of all try how this web form works. So it has got a plain simple query. I'll show you the source code as well if you wish. So first of all, I would enter as a legal admin. I'm typing my username admin and I'm typing my password, that is admin2. I'll type in the password admin and I'll hit on to the submit. And as I got hit onto the submit button, it says the thumb up sign. That means, hey, you have got perfectly logged in with the username admin. I'll zoom it a bit so that you can see it. Now what happens if, let's say, I'm logging with the username and password Hitesh and then hit a submit button, it gives me a down arrow that says, hey, you are not a legal user of this website. Now if I'm going to copy that string, that would be 0 single quote or single quote 0 single quote equals to single quote 0. If I'm going to log in with this particular code, it is going to say, hey, you can actually, I'll just copy it, Control C and Control V, and hit a submit. It allows me to log in into the website. Now why did that happen? But most importantly, how to stop it. Once you will understand how that happened, then you can easily get rid of that. Now let's analyze what is happening out there. Now the string at the back end was just SQL. Now many times people ask me again here a question, hey Desh, my application is made in PHP, my application is made in let's say .NET, Windows Framework and JSP or anything else. But the problem is this is not actually an application that specific vulnerability. It's not dependent on the PHP, it's not dependent on the Java. It's a backend issue in the SQL, and SQL remains almost same in every language out there, whether you use PHP, ASP or anything like that. Just the small hints of query got changed, but almost logic remains same. So what the logic is hindering out here is, first of all, I have asked this part, that is 0 and quote. Now I'm putting an explicit code because at the back end I have assumed that user have got an input, is taking the input in 2 quotes. So whenever the code 0 is applied, it says, hey, is the password 0? Or that says, is the password false? That is not at all. But why I have passed this query? Just to simply take the OR part. This OR actually works very simple. Left and right or the right hand side. Either one of them, if it is true, then the result would be a Boolean. That is true. And at the right hand side, I say 0 equals 0. That will give me a true part, because 0 is equals to 0. That is going to log in into the website, because at the end of the day, the Boolean only checks this all over part is true. Now you could have also said to me, hey Tesh, what about if I do like this? Now this is also perfectly true. I'm just putting 1 out here. 1 will be assumed and interpreted as a true part, so that is also going to work. Now that's the really beautiful part about the SQL. You can be so much creative out here. That's why I've explicitly created a course out here. Now another interesting stuff, let's make it more interesting. What else you can do apart from logging into the website, because that's just a one part of the day. Now what I'm going to do, lots of people say, hey, hit the single quote and try to enter in the URL. Now I'm doing something extra here. I'm hitting a single quote in the username field and trying to hit the submit button. Now when I hit the submit button, now in a moment you can see that here it is. You have an SQL syntax error. Check the manual that corresponds to my SQL. Now error for the SQL. Again, a word of caution. Whenever you see these kinds of error, that means you are going to run into the trouble, because the error of the database should never pop onto the screen. Apart from that, what should have popped up here is a page not found error or something like that, that is handled by, not any kind of server error. This implies that I'm somehow able to contact to the server. If I'm able to touch to the server anyhow, I can get more result from it. For example, what I can do, really the single quote is not my type. I always use the backslash, and there is a reason out here, because when I say this doesn't gives me any kind of information, the things that I have highlighted in the query, that doesn't gives me any kind of importance out here. But if I do a backslash and hit a submit, now hope you can see it. Let me just zoom it a bit. Now what it gives me, that after slash there is a single quote. That gives me that, hey, at the back end there was only the single quote which was used. So what else I can do here, and let's be more creative, I can hit a single quote. Now also remember, whenever you break a query, you need to fix the query. I will fix it here by the pound sign. That means apart from outside the pound sign, everything on the right hand side is going to be the comment. Check, hey, everything is fixed now, no error at all. What else I can do here is I can hit the single quote hash, and just to save our time, I'll hit order by 3, let's say. Just hit the enter, and it says unknown column 3 in order clause. Since I have designed this application, I can be a little more joggy out here. So it says unknown order column. So it has the union all till the 2 number. Again, let's do one more thing out here to make this session very interactive. And here I would say union. I will use the keyword union to combine 2 queries. That would be all select and 1, 2. And now hopefully you can see that there are 2 numbers which are popped up onto the screen. That says login name 1 and the 2. Now these are the same numbers which I have entered out here. Now some of you might be saying, hey Tesh, the number is being popped up, what we can do from it? Hey, you can do lots of things with that number. Let me show you what you can do. I'll just use this one, and in place of 1, I'll use a function of the database, and I'll give it as 2 brackets. I hope all of you know that this is a function database out there in the SQL. I'll hit the submit button, and now you can see the database name is being popped up. That is security. So this is really a dangerous thing out here, that the database name is being popped up. I can use lots of queries, but that will go beyond our time scope. I can dump out the entire database, table name, the values in the database, what are you storing, and everything. So not just a user is being able to log in into the website through these vulnerable forms, but he is also able to get some really good information, juicy information I would rather say, from your website. So let's say way back when I was in my college, I found a vulnerability out there in the Facebook, the same SQL injection vulnerability. I dumped lots of username and password, but honestly I submitted it to the Facebook without leaking it out anywhere, and Facebook has got some bounty that gives to me. But really the important point is that your application can lose a valuable data, your customer information. It may be your email database, your clients, your quotations, and so many things. So I would be just pausing the demonstration here on this particular lesson. I have got so many lessons out there. I would now be trying to go on to the lesson number 1, so that I can give you one more example that how this things actually works. So this is how our lesson 1. In a moment you are going to see, here it is, SQL lesson 1. And here it says, please input the IDS parameter and the numeric value. So you might have seen this kind of parameters a lot on the websites. Question mark ID is equals to 1. The website can be in the PHP, in the ASP, in the JSP, or maybe some others as well if they exist. Now what happens, what is the actual procedure, how the hackers attacks? If you know that, you can get rid of lots of attack, how he thinks. Now lots of hackers says, hey, please input the single quote in the URL so that you can break the query. But my view always says hit a backslash. Why backslash? I always emphasize on them. So let's make it clear. Whenever you hit a single quote, there is a rule out there with the brackets and quotes that they always appear in the pair. If they are three, they are going to put up an error. And what we are doing, the two quotes are already being put by the programmer. We are putting our third quote. So that makes a problem. But how can a backslash be creating a problem? The backslash, I hope all of you know about the C typical language. Whenever you hit a print A, it just prints out the value of the A. But whenever you give a /A, it rings a bell. That's alert. So it's not the words or letters that making a special effect of that. It's the backslash that can reduce the effect or can create an extra effect out there. So my favorite one is always the backslash. I would be hitting it, and in a moment you are going to see the error, and the error says again, the problem is with the database errors. Sometimes they exist, sometimes it doesn't, but still SQL injection is possible. So let's just, for the time being, I'm talking about the very beginners of this SQL. So it gives an error, that is, but again, the problem is not solved. It says single quote is there at the back end, so I'll just hit a single quote, and again, things are not going to work if I do a hyphen just out that, because I have created a query, but I haven't fixed the query. Now this is really a problem. Now if you're not going to fix the query, what will happen, you will put an order by, and it's going to run order by 20, order by 20,000, order by 20 lakh, 20 million, and likewise. So my request is all of you, when you break a query, try to fix the query as well. So what I did here, I entered a plus sign in the URL. There are dozens of methods being explained in my SQL course. So it really makes the things back again. Now it has changed everything into the percentage sign. I hope all of you can see out here. Let me just copy it on the notepad so that you can see. Now it has created everything into the percentage, so don't just worry about it. The percentage 20 is space. The percent 27 stands for the code. So this is how I fixed it. If I haven't fixed it with the plus sign, I could have placed in the order by 1 and so many zeros behind it, but it won't have got fixed. So that's why I have put a plus sign so that everything get fixed up. So this is the actual query. Now what you can do, the same method is going to follow up. You have to put union all select, and then after you can put 1, 2, 3 after checking the order by. Or let's just be creative, and let me give you a brief overview out here. So I'll put a single quote, I'll put order by, let's say 4, and just check it. It says unknown column in 4. That means 4 column doesn't exist. So I'll put a 3 here, and it says, hey, it exists. Now let me just get rid of this part, and again, all of you know what I am going to do. I'm going to put union all select 1, 2, and 3. And if I did that this time, I didn't got any number. Now what happened actually, this is really interesting out here. Why it hasn't got any string out here or numbers out here, because this part of the query, that is id is equals to 1, is generating the result on the screen, but there is only one place, one screen where to display the second union result. So you have to make one result invalid so that the second result can appear. I'm again repeating, you have to make one result invalid to make the second result valid and appeared on the screen. How you can do that? You can do that by simply, there is id is equals to 1, make the id is equals to after number somewhat that number doesn't exist. Typical approach is put a minus sign, because I know -1 doesn't exist, but that is not necessary. You can do something like 19999, so big value that doesn't exist in the database. So that also gives me a number out here. Now this 2 and 3 are the same number which I have passed in union all 1, 2, and 3. Now if I change the number, let's say in place of 3 I put a 5, it is going to give me a 5 on the screen. So that's the important part out here. Now you can choose any number to display the result from the database, because it's contacting directly the database. Let me just change the 2 to the again, or let's say let's display the version this time. Last time we displayed the database. This time I'm going to display the version. It says my version is 5.6.12-log. So again, it could be dangerous. I could have dumped out the database entirely out here on the screen. It could have dumped the ID, the passwords, and everything, each and everything that is stored on your website. And the problem is the client is not ready and willing to pay for having information security check or vulnerability assessment of the website. And most of the people do these kinds of things with the automation, and they doesn't caught up much things out there unless and until you have done explicit and comprehensive training on the SQL injection. So I hope we have covered a lots of demo, and it's a good time to pop up back onto my little presentation. Let me go on to the presentation mode so that I can tell you what to do, what not to do, what to believe, what not to believe. So in a moment I'll come into full screen mode, and here it is. Again, you can note my email ID and the website name where you can find the course. Yes, I know it's a shameless publicity stunt out here, but hey, I'm delivering something else. So again, my first word of caution would be whenever I give a training, a detailed training into the company, college, university, everywhere, it's highly illegal to attack and test any web application without permission. Stick to my labs only until you have got the explicit permission. So I provide all of the labs in my courses, and if you don't just jump out onto any website and putting a single quote everywhere, backslashes everywhere. So it doesn't work like that. Anyone can sue you into the jail. So with that word, what you can do in order to make your website safe, you have to look at like this way. So let me